Good evening, everyone. We're going to call this meeting to order at 6:02. At this time, I'd look for a vote to go into a closed session for discussion and/or action regarding those items of business exempt from open meetings under general laws of Rhode Island, RIGL 42-46-5, A1, A2, A4, A8, and A9.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're in closed session. Okay, we will call the meeting to order at 6:31, sorry, 6:32. Return to open session. New business is discussion FY24 Superintendent recommended budget. Tonight will be just a presentation from all the budget managers. The meeting on Monday will be the meeting where committee members will ask questions and dissect the budget and make changes and adjustments. At the end of tonight's meeting, all budget documents will be made public on the Secretary of State's website and the Warwick Public Schools website. So at this point, I'll give it to Superintendent Danbrook.
Good evening. Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the school committee, my colleagues from the Warwick School Department, and members of the community. Thank you for attending the fiscal year 24 budget presentation. I want to tell you a little bit about the process that we go through when we're making the budget. So at first we meet with the budget managers and we ask them to think of the vision of their department, to think of the priorities, things they want to accomplish during the year. So they meet with their teams and they develop an initial budget. And then Financial Director Tim McGrath, Assistant Superintendent McCaffrey, and myself will meet with them several times to review their budgets. And we like to see the priorities that are reflected in the budget and that they match their vision. So we meet with them a number of times throughout several months. It's not a short process, it's a long process. And to review, and then we start refining their budgets. The whole process reflects a collaborative approach. We work very closely together when coming up with each manager's budget. It's very student-centered and it's fiscally responsible. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all of the budget managers. You did put a lot of hard work in it, and thank you. You were very strategic in your thinking, and you spent a lot of time preparing the budget for tonight and the next fiscal year. I especially want to thank Finance Director Mr. McGrath for all your hard work and overseeing the budget process. And at this point in time, I would like to introduce Finance Director McGrath, Mr. McGrath, to give us an overview of the budget.
Thank you, Superintendent Danbrook. Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the school committee. Tonight I'm here to present the FY24 Superintendent's recommended budget. I'll jump right in. Here you'll see a breakdown of the revenue from 2020 to the forward with the FY23 budget, as well as the FY24 proposed budget. You will see that over the years, much of the revenue has remained consistent, with a funding increase in FY23. Here is a summary of the expenses broken down by the UCOA's major object code of the superintendent's recommended 24 budget. I'm going to take a look at this graphically. This is a pie chart of those UCOA major object codes. You'll notice the two biggest pieces of the pie are personnel service compensation and then the employee benefit codes. That makes up 80% of the entire school department's budget. Of the remaining 20% of the budget, 13% is other purchase services, or $25 million. Of that $25 million, $11 million is allocated to transportation, and $12 million is allocated to out-of-district tuitions, which is 97% of that 13, or $24 million of that 25. So to reiterate on the previous slides, of the $189 million superintendent's recommended budget, $149 million is associated with employees and employee benefits. This leaves $40 million to run the rest of the district. Of that $40 million, 24, as I mentioned before, is associated with transportation and tuitions, leaving $16 million to to fund the rest of the district. Of that 16, 8.6 million is associated with utilities, insurance, audit, legal, repairs, and maintenance, leaving $7.5 million for operational materials, operational services, and mostly student materials and student services. So once again, $7.3 million after all those other items is considered discretionary. Here is a chart of the FY23 budget versus the FY24, showing the major differences between the two budgets. Down towards the bottom, you'll see the largest increases between last year's budget and this year. The majority is made up by salaries, and then different categories like technology, software, and ESY. ESY, for example, was grant funded. Custodial supplies was also ESSER funded. So all these items are now needing to return to the general fund. So what does this all mean? Currently, it's a $6.5 million additional appropriation from the city. And I will now kick it back to Superintendent Danbrook, and we're going to start going through all the different budget manager slides.
So in my fiscal year 24 budget, I am asking for $577,000, $231.20. And my fiscal year 23 budget consisted of $484,655.63. So there is an increase of $92,575.57. And I did highlight the major differences so you could understand. Conferences and workshops, last year it was for $10,000. This year I increased it for $15,000. And that's just not conferences and workshops for me, it's for all the directors and for administrators as well. So we unfortunately, due to COVID, we were not able to attend some important workshops and conferences. Legal services, there's a $35,000 increase. So in the fiscal year 23 budget, there was a $315,000 budget line item for legal services. And this year I budgeted $350,000 in legal services. And I would like to remind people that we entering negotiations with the Warwick Teachers Union, and we'll also start negotiations in the spring with the WISE Union. That is why there is an increase. On negotiations and arbitrations, there's a $35,000 increase from $15,000 to $50,000. So again, we are going into negotiations and with 2 new contracts. Printing is up from 500 to 800. $500 to $8,000. This is due because in the WTU contract, we are responsible for printing every contract for every school employee, administrator, and historically it's been about $7,000, so I raised it a little bit to $8,000. So there are no new initiatives included in the superintendent's budget. And needed but not included in the budget, last year I did budget for DocuSign subscription, which was cut from the budget, and we feel this would help streamline the paperwork requirements throughout all the departments. It would be all digital, so we feel that is an important initiative. Thank you. So no new staffing as well. So now I will call up the technology department.
Thank you, Superintendent Danbrook. So my goal tonight is just to, at a 10,000-foot view, demystify the technology department budget a little bit. You'll notice that our total amount requested this year is $1,788,000. That's an increase of a little over $300,000 from last fiscal year. We can explain that increase with 2 major pieces. I'll start with the second first. You'll notice $140,000 in a managed services contract. So traditionally, that same amount of money has lived in the staffing budget. We've maintained over the last few years the spot network administrator, but we've filled that role with a third-party contracted service. So this year, we've moved that into that line. So that's really an inflation of the technology department budget, but a little bit less in staffing. The other chunk there is items back from ESSER. So as we know, with the ESSER funding coming to a close, we are moving stuff back into the general fund. And so we have about $198,000 worth of items that are moving back. Really next year, in fiscal year 25, we'll be talking about another chunk of that, namely the Chromebooks at that point. So that's for the future. So a couple budgetary notes about that budget, because it is a large budget. The largest chunk of that budget is tied up in 4 large contracts that really make the operational side of the district run. The first is our student information system, our Aspen system, and that's obviously used for scheduling, grade entry, really running the student side of the district. We have our Cox phones. We have our Xerox CBS as our copy machines and maintenance contracts. And then that managed services piece that I mentioned in the last slide. Those are the 4 big contracts that our budget funds in the technology department. The next big chunk are the annual renewals of programs and licenses. In there, you're finding Microsoft, the licensing from Microsoft, Word, PowerPoint, Excel. Not all of that, but then you're finding all the programs from the technology department that support the entire district. That's what lands in there. And then I listed again those items back from ESSER. So you can kind of see how that 1.7 million gets eaten up quickly on these items. The rest of the funding of the department helps us to fund the various initiatives that we always strive to accomplish. Obviously, at the top of that list is to continue to improve upon our cybersecurity in the district. Very, very important. We don't need to even talk too much about the importance of that, but that's a big district priority, a big department priority. Also, our data center backup project. Every year we've been putting a little bit back towards the data center and moving that backup of the data center to both cloud servers and physical servers. We've also been working to phase the replacement of student devices. As I mentioned, it's currently in ESSER, and actually in ESSER in both ECF funding. And so once it's out of the federal funding, then that would hit the general fund. We also, next year, we're looking to continue our replacement of what's called Chrome bases. You'll find a lot of offices throughout the district. They don't necessarily have a Chromebook in those offices, libraries, nurses' offices, main offices, but what's called Chrome bases. Similar to a Chromebook, attaches to a monitor, but we're looking to continue to replace those as those devices are at end of life. Anytime you hear end of life, be it a Chromebook or a Chrome base or any device, the biggest concern we have is end of life equals no more updates, and no more updates means no more security updates. So that's part of that cybersecurity piece, very important. We don't want to have things that are ever called end of life. Renewals of existing contracts, program, and licenses, I spoke about that. We've mentioned the Chromebooks, but just so that everybody who's listening knows that our process has been over the last 3 years, students in grades 1, 5, and 9 receive a new Chromebook. Welcome to grade 1, here's your Chromebook. It's for 4 years, grades 1, 2, 3, 4. Same happens in grade 5, same happens in grade 9. Those Chromebooks for the next school year already purchased under that ECF ESSER funding, and the technicians are working on setting those up so that the students will get those new devices. E-rate's important to mention here. We've mentioned it at school committee meetings in the past, and this is really tied to that free and reduced lunch application that we really urge members of the community, families to fill out. Last year, the E-rate federal programming funded the district at 60% reimbursement because our free and reduced need dropped, and we tie that to the number of applications being filled out. We're being funded by the federal government next year at 50%, so we've lost 10%, which will cost the district about $33,000 next year and not being reimbursed that percentage. Things that you'll notice in the budget as you look at the budget documents that are covered in or covered by E-rate funding for a 50% reimbursement includes our internet service, our firewall, any engineering hours for project work. If you notice Wally in the budget or network administration, that $140,000 is funded at 50% reimbursed by E-rate. Those are the type of things we're mentioning. Access points, switches, things that make our network and our network closets work are covered by E-rate. As I mentioned, we have about $166,000 in E-rate reimbursement planned for next year. No position changes are recommended for the technology department for fiscal year '24. And now I turn it over to Dr. Schultz from the curriculum department.
Thank you, Dr. Taylor. It is a pleasure to be here on this fabulous Administrative Professionals Day. So if you have not reached out to your friendly administrative professional, please do so. Thank you, Teresa, for everything that you do. You're amazing. All right, so the total amount requested this year is about $1.7 million. It is a decrease of $1.4 million from last year. You're probably saying, how is that possible? RIDE has many mandates for curricular purchases. We've already purchased the bulk of what needs to be purchased for the district, and so the $1.4 million is due to the fact that we spent a lot of money on a new ELA purchase last year, grades K to 5. So that, even though we're renewing that and still have to buy consumables, it is a much lower cost to the district, thank goodness. So the major difference is there is a reduced amount needed for stipends, reduced PD and costs for most programs because it's not the first year of implementation anymore. We're now into year 6 for some programs, so that's wonderful. We were able to cut GEMSNet costs by $45,000, which was important. We did a survey asking teachers what their opinions were of GEMSNet. They love it. That's our science program for grades K to 5, and so we don't want to cut that. Teachers definitely enjoyed it, so thank you so much to all the teachers that filled out the survey that I sent out last week. We were able to cut 2 applications that had low usage. I've already alerted the staff members of that when they log into Clever. And we're purchasing a new mathematics purchase for the high school. The teachers love Reveal Math. It seems to have some really great positive effects on teaching and learning, so we're going to be purchasing that. But you can see at the bottom there, it's $455,000, so it is a large ask for that program. It's always more when you first buy the program. Some other things that I'd like to purchase are just some resources for our math interventionists. They're looking for some more manipulatives, and we have a request from Winman specifically for new robotics materials. What I'd like to do is to purchase those robotics materials for Winman this year, and then for vets the next year, so that we can split up that load. It's about $20,000 per school. Right now they're using Lego kits that are out of, what did you say, Dr. Taylor? End of life. We don't want that. No, we don't want that. Okay. So needed but not included in the budget are leveled readers. Even though the elementary teachers do like the Wit and Wisdom program, there are a couple things that they're asking for, and so they like to have more leveled readers for the students, even though that can be a little controversial. Just having something that a student can read at their level is really important. I'm also asking for more funding for the elementary itinerant teachers. I did not include it in the budget. I did round up slightly. Right now, the phys ed and health teachers get $100 a year to run their entire phys ed and health program, which seems extremely low to me. The music teachers get $200 a year, and art gets $400 a year. That gets eaten up quickly because these are consumable materials specifically for art. If you think about how much clay costs, it gets eaten up like that. So just to keep in mind that I'd love to increase those lines moving forward. The additional $20,000 for vets for the year after, and then we are purchasing half of the heart rate monitors this year for Winman Middle School, but we have an ask from the department head, Sue Clegg, to purchase more. So I'd like to split that up and ask for that, hopefully for next year. I'm also asking for a few staff members. We have a dire need for a 0.5 increase at vets who are reading interventionists, also a math interventionist at Winman. The administration at Winman is doing a great job by being creative with classes for students that need intervention in mathematics, and so if we have that new position added, we could service and help so many more students that are struggling right now with mathematics. Also, my administrative assistant, Carol Maloney, who works so hard, she works her tail off. She hasn't taken lunch in months, I have to tell you. I think it's needed. Right now she's getting overtime because she works through lunch and she works a lot. So to have somebody else to help with the grants For anyone that tunes in, we hear Dr. Cecil constantly talking about how many grants we've been awarded. And so the other side of it is the purchasing. And so we have school upon school that has hundreds of things to order for grants, and that's just 1 or 2 people doing all of that purchasing. So if that continues, we definitely need some more help on that end. Also, this is just a draft format, but I'm asking for a slight add to a music position and also a visual arts teacher at this time, just for what it looks like with classes being added, possibly at the elementary level. I'll also go into federal programs quickly because Dr. Cecil is not here. Nothing really majorly different. The only thing, and it's not that large of an amount comparatively, is we cut the budget for non-public textbooks by $20,000 because we didn't have to use as much this year for that, so we were able to do that. The new initiatives is the Destiny software. When it says antiquated system, you should see this computer. It was really scary. It looks like the one that we had to play the Oregon Trail growing up. So we're hoping to get that out of there and get a newer computer system so that they can check books in and out for our non-public students. Nothing needed there and no staffing requests. So at this time, I'll ask that the co-directors come up from the Special Services Department. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Superintendent, Chair, and School Committee. Special Services is requesting, I can't see. Not working. It's going. There we go. Special Services requesting $9,001,165, which is an increase of $742,000 over the 2023 budget. Some of the major differences is an increase in cost for tutoring for all students that are placed at the Bradley Hospital. There's a line item for $350,000 for DCYF education costs. Anytime a Warwick student is placed by DCYF, we're responsible for the educational component of that. There's an increase of contracted nursing due to increase in prices and increase of number of students that are requiring that service of $230,000. The out-of-district tuitions is up 2%, and then medical supplies is an increase of $2,400. Some of the differences and decreases, Opportunity Learn, which is a program that's run out of the ALP program at West Bay Draper, is being eliminated. We have similar programs at both of the high schools that can take that place. And then the assistive tech hardware is a decrease of $11,000.
Okay. So now I'm going to go over some of our staffing needs. Currently, we have 1,691 active IEPs, 180 students qualified for special services just since September 1st, and we have 163 students currently in the referral process. So the positions I'm going to talk about is adding new elementary special education teachers to keep classes within the contractual size and to protect the integrity of our programs. The first is a new SES, that's our social emotional support program. There is an increase in student need. Our goal is to have 4 classrooms. We currently have 3. To have 4 classrooms and to have 2 classrooms on each side of the city. This will get our numbers down, make those classrooms effective, and also minimize the time that students are on buses because kids are being bused from the other side of the city. So I think it would be important to have a nice balance there for the kids. Currently, we have 23 students in K-5 who qualify for the SES program, but the need is there this year. We could have used more, so we definitely have student need right now. This is not including the preschool students. We are still meeting with the preschool to place those students properly, and we have some IEP meetings that still need to occur where we have to determine placement. So this is not inclusive of those programs. We do like to keep those programs at 6 to 7 students max. In addition, we are adding full-time resource teachers back to the elementary schools with high resource numbers. This equates to 3 new positions. We're also requesting a new IASE, which is our Intensive Academic Special Education Program. This is a continuation of a plan that was created before we were here, but we need to expand the program. Currently, we have 76 students in grades K to 5. We have a huge influx of students coming to kindergarten that are going into our alternate assessment program, so we're requesting 2 new AAP classrooms. Currently, we have 14 students coming in. In addition, we're also requesting 2 social workers, one which will be funded by our grant. This is to address the increased social emotional needs across the district. And in addition, we are requesting 1 occupational therapist to address increased student need. I don't think that we've had a new OT in 15 years. So they have held it together and met our student needs for quite some time. So we definitely need to increase there.
Sorry, our slides were out of order. To speak to the secondary staffing increases, we're increasing 4 new IASE, which is our intensive academic special education program. It's an increased student need. Currently, there's 114 students in grades 6 through 12 that receive instruction in the IASE setting. We're also looking to add a new IA classroom, which is our intensive academic program. Due to increased student needs, currently there's 223 students in grades 6 through 12 that are projected to receive instruction in the IA setting.
Some new initiatives. We're going to continue to focus on providing special education curricula and training to our special educators with our STAR program, Unique Learning Systems, News to You, Wilson Reading, EdMark, and Conscious Discipline. We have goals of developing a mentoring program for newly hired special educators. We have a team who's participating in the RIDE Dyslexia Professional Development for Special Education, and our community of practice that will focus on identifying and meeting the needs, instructional needs of our students with dyslexia. And special services also striving to improve our inclusive educational environments to provide students with an opportunity to receive their education in a least restrictive environment. I have 45. Yep. And programs not requested, we would like to add these, but we did not include these in the budget. An additional IASE classroom at Hoxie. This was part of our plan, was to continue to expand those programs across the district. And also an additional co-taught classroom, an IA classroom at Veterans. Their numbers are really high for grades 7 and 8.
Okay. Next is the Warwick Early Learning Program. Total amount requested is $62,547. Which is an increase of $53,000. That is due to the professional development, which is $30,000, which was received this year, but it was funded from a different source. Testing materials is an increase of $200, and the general supplies is an increase of $4,000. Technical related supplies is an increase of $500. And then furniture and fixtures is an increase of $3,700. And then technology and software is an increase of $14,000, which is a progress monitoring tool for all students. The staffing request for WELC is for a principal and coordinator. And both budgets will be funded in the budget for 2014. 2014.
And just 3 of those the curriculum, the $30,000. Boston Public Schools, they rolled this out last year at Welk. And this is for the professional development, the continued professional development that's needed to keep this program up and running. So we're hoping to have an additional 5 classrooms rolled out this year for the 23-24 school year. Foundations, we're doing this across the district. It's great that we have this now at the preschool. So this is just continued training for a phonics program that will begin at the preschool level, and continued professional development for conscious discipline. Programs not requested, we would love to expand our integrated programs to allow us, an additional 15 seats in the preschool, and also a special educator for the itinerant model. We would like to start to look out in the community and have special educators go out and service students that are in some of the local early childhood centers. And I'll hand it over to Ken for athletics. Taking someone else.
Good evening, committee. I'm here to represent and speak about the athletic budget for fiscal year 23-24. The total amount requested is $736,969.75. Last year's budget was $612,122, an increase of $124,847.75. Some of the major differences: athletic uniform replacement. As you know, last year we had some financial constraints, and we needed to sharpen our pencil, and we didn't buy any uniforms this year at all. We gave up the total uniform budget. We usually replace uniforms every 5th year, sometimes a 6th year if they hold up. So one of the big reasons for this increase is that we have to buy double the uniforms for replacement for this year. We also have a new fee from the Rhode Island Interscholastic League, is Coaches Association fees, which now they are going to collect $125 per sport team for their banquets and awards, and they'll be compiling an all-state. Instead of every sport having their own individual group of people that do it, the Interscholastic League is pretty much taken over that, and that's a new fee that they're going to be assigning to us. There's a significant increase in costs and supplies. We usually do our budget in January into February of last year, and so when I turned in those numbers last year, they were significantly less than what prices actually cost. Supply and demand has gone through the roof. For example, this year on our bid price, it was $80 for a case of tennis balls, and by the end of the season in the spring, it's now $130. So last year when we had those budgetary issues and I had to cut in athletics, I really sharpened my pencil and just bought what we need. And this year we need to make sure we fund things. We were fortunate enough this year with the ACT Foundation. Steve Marola had given a bunch of grants to our sports teams, which helped make up for the stuff that we couldn't provide this year, so that was great. My hope is that we'll restore the athletic trainers to have one at each school. Due to the budget decrease last year, we only have one, and I can speak to that later if anybody needs me to, but that's a big thing for us to get our athletic trainers in each school. And I was instructed to include a 4% increase in transportation costs. New initiatives. We now have unified cross-country teams. All the unified sports used to be paid for by the Special Olympics, and now those funds have dried up. So the school districts are responsible for all the funds associated with all our unified teams. So that's a budget increase. And our boys ice hockey co-op was dissolved. Our numbers were too large at Pilgrim High School. So now the result will be either we'll have 2 teams again, which will be Tollgate and Pilgrim. That's an increase in staff. It's an increase in buying new uniforms and a bunch of other things. And if for some reason one of the teams does not have enough, we will have to pay another district to co-op. needed but not included in the budget. There are several facility issues that we have. I put them in each year to let the district know that we need these things fixed eventually. We all know the budgetary problems. The money's just not there, but our tennis courts at Windman and Vets are really rough shape. They got cracks throughout them. Okay, the Warwick Vets track and Pilgrim tracks need to be resurfaced. Warwick Vets is almost down to cement. Outdoor lighting repairs are needed at Warwick Vets. We have several lights out now. They haven't been serviced in a long time. The baseball and softball fields, the grounds crews just don't have the right equipment to do those facilities in a timely manner. They have a lot to do, one person at each school. If they had this piece of equipment, it would cut down half the time of what they have to do, but we can't afford it. Softball dugouts at Warwick Vets at Pilgrim, that's a Title IX concern, so I put that in there. Although we've held off on Pilgrim due to the possibility of the new schools being built. Football field refurbishment, the fields and the grass, they really need to be done, especially Tollgate. We just don't have the money to do it right now. We don't have a golf cart for the athletic trainer at Tollgate. That would be a big plus to get our athletes that are injured back to the training room and get the trainer to different facilities. Pilgrim High School, as if you've seen it, they no longer have a PA system outside. We often rent, and they don't have a press box. It was taken down years ago. Baseball and softball scoreboards are needed at Vets. There is an old one out there. It doesn't work. And that's basically the athletic request.
Good evening, Superintendent Danbrook, Mr. Chair, members of the school committee, and greetings from the elementary department. I am here tonight to share with you the budget for the elementary department. Right now, my ask is for a total of $323,748. And the elementary, my budget would be the $230, and the operating budget for the elementary schools would be the $123. We did try to do a bare bones kind of budget for the operating budgets for the schools, and from that 123, if you divide by the 13 elementary schools, that's less than $10,000 per school for the fiscal year, and includes all their pencils, all their crayons, all their paper, et cetera, et cetera. So that's where that number came from. So the total amount requested last year, again, was 323, and this year is the 353. The major differences for us this year, we are grant funded for Save the Bay for our 4th grade students. This is a wonderful partnership we have with Save the Bay, and we were paying $20,000, but Dr. Cecil helps us out and gives us some grant money, so we were able to shave that in half, so we saved about 10 grand there. We no longer need the Swiss application for our PBIS program. We now have the Panorama program instead. That is in ESSER funds, so we're saving $6,200 because of the Swiss program we no longer have. PPE, thank goodness COVID hopefully is behind us, so we don't no longer need as many masks and gloves and things that we were doing with plexiglass and so on, so there's a savings of $2,100. And there were some screener booklets that we used at the elementary level for our PBIS program, and there was an SSIS screener. And again, we're using Panorama this year, so we're saving $38,500 there. Our major increases, again, not too much right now. We have an increase in dues and fees, just like all the other departments you've seen before me. There's about $1,000, $830 in increase in dues and fees. The price of paper is going up, so responsive classroom, that's been one of our initiatives. We're going in year 5. We have over 200 teachers and all of our principals trained in this approach. And again, thanks to Dr. Cecil, we're running another training this year for 30 folks, but the price of the books is going up, so we needed to add in $700 for that. And we are asking for, with the coordinator, Danny Majacomo's come on board, who is a godsend for my department, but The things that we go out to schools and we see that we're missing is we're missing vests for the lunch ladies, we're missing some cones and some signage and things like that. So in the regards of safety, we put in $1,000 for each elementary school, so we capped that at $13,000. Things that are grant funded right now, but will definitely need to be put in the budget at a later date. Again, that Panorama platform, we're not using Swiss or PBIS right now, but Panorama will have to be paid for out of the general funds at some point. The Save the Bay program, including stipends for our teachers. They included a day of training for our teachers in grade 4, which is absolutely wonderful. We've gotten rave reviews about that. But again, if the grant goes away, we'll need to include the stipends especially. And right now, a few of our math interventionists, a few years ago, we went full-time math interventionists in every elementary school. Our math scores have historically been lower than our reading scores, and this has been a wonderful initiative. I don't think elementary schools can do without a full-time math interventionist in every single one of our schools. So if we had to prioritize, I'd move that one up to the top, but I'm advocating for the full-time math interventionist in every school to remain. Needed but not included in the budget because, again, thanks to Dr. Cecil and her creative writing, in budget 4A is our responsive classroom training. Again, it runs approximately $25,000 each time we do a training. It's 2 sessions in August and 2 sessions in, 2 sessions in June and 2 sessions in August. And thanks to the 16 teachers who have already signed up for this round. I have 30 slots, so if you're listening and you haven't signed up yet, we have a few extra slots. And then I definitely would like to include more money. 50,000 is a low estimate, but I'd like to include more money for safety and security stipend, not stipends, for swipe passes. All the meetings we've gone out to with Danny and the parent forums we've been holding, the public has brought to our attention the need for an access card or a swipe. I know Hoxie has a concern at door B3, Holloman is door D14, and Norwood School, forgive me Sabrina, but I think it's around B3 as well. Those 3 alone are going to cost probably around $30,000. They're around $10,000 a piece. I'm sure Jeff could give you more information, but it's not just a door, it's not just a camera, it's not just a swipe, it's like this whole big complicated thing. But those are definitely, we don't want doors to be propped open. So we need to put the swipes there so the doors won't be propped open because it's illegal to prop doors open. Staffing, right now what I do is I do a plus-minus system, and of all the classrooms in all the buildings right now, an example would be if I have 3 first-grade classrooms in a building, but next year a lot of kids are on waivers or families move, I could get that number down to 2 classrooms, so that's sort of a -1. But a lot of kids moved in a different grade, and so we had to add a class to that. That would be a +1. So almost all my schools are 0. They're kind of leveling out right now. So I have been able to look for spots where I could sort of decrease but still stay within. Right now, kindergarten is capped at 22 students, and grades 1 through 5 are capped at 26 students. So using those numbers, I am able to shave off 2 full-time FTEs, full-time employees, approximately $120,000 a person based on salary and benefits. So there's a savings of $240,000. But if you want to give me that back, I could put less kids in a class. And then this is this is the operational budget slide for each of the 13 elementary schools. The secretaries and principals are given 3 columns, so to speak. The first column is office and general classroom supplies. So that's based on a per pupil amount. So you'll see like Oakland Beach has a bigger budget and Sherman has a bigger budget than, let's say, Park or Greenwood or Scott. We've already reduced this with that 10% cut that we were asked to do. The art supplies went from $2,000 down to $1,500, so that again is all the construction paper, the clay, the crayons, scissors, all that kind of stuff. And then the tech supplies, we provide headphones and mice for students, especially during testing. It's RICAS season right now, so a lot of this, we require headphones to keep it quiet, and the testing private. So we buy all of that out of that line item there as well. And then the principal and the secretary, nope, not the secretary, the principal and the nurse have printers in their offices because they print a lot of confidential information, and we don't want them going down to the copy machine and leaving something there by mistake. So the office cartridges are quite expensive, so we throw $400 in there. So that 123 was 133, and it's already down to 123. But if you divide that by all 13 schools, that's less than $10,000 a school. And I will turn it over to the non-instructional service team.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the school committee, Superintendent Danbrook. I'll be presenting the non-instructional student services department budget this evening. The non-instructional services department request is $805,919.90. The difference is $80,503. You can see here that in the non-instructional student services department, they are responsible for wireless communications and general supplies for the non-instructional student services department, finance, and IT. Also, you'll see here the bulk of the increase is a result of property and liability insurance, fleet vehicle insurance, and errors and omissions insurance, which we carry through the Rhode Island Trust. And these are based upon quotes for the FY24 year. And the major difference, as I said earlier, is the insurance cost. Some new initiatives that the department would like to provide for the 23-24 school year would be to update our vendor system and move our files over to an electronic system, have better communications with our schools, schedule more training with our purchasing staff members to ensure everyone is on the same page, and support them when they're using the LEO system that's changing to the Lynx system, which is happening this upcoming year. Create more resources and guides for our staff to support the staff members. At this time, I'd like to present the secondary budget to you. The request for FY24 for the secondary budget is $1,484,381.92. The difference is $781,584.51. This represents 5 secondary schools, and it also represents an increase to the commercial foods account at the Career and Tech Center. As you know, during the COVID period, we didn't have 100% of our students in the school. We weren't able to open the Tides restaurant, so it wasn't necessary to have as many instructional supplies in that department. Now that we're back post-COVID, Tides restaurant is open, fully functioning. We restored the food services account to what it had previously been 3 years ago. Moving forward, some of the major differences: tech-related software. Some examples of the tech-related software would be the Zello platform, Rhode Island Link subscription, Follett, Turnitin.com at the middle level, high school level, Edgenuity. Some other areas we have would be the virtual CAD. That's essential to run the CAD programs at the 2 high schools, as well as the e-hall pass that we utilize at the middle and high school level, which helps us monitor students within the building throughout the school day. Some of the other initiatives would be, we have our Promethean boards in every classroom. They have a useful life over a few years, and after that we have to start replacing them. So on a cyclical process, we replace our Promethean boards, and what's budgeted there is what's needed to be replaced this upcoming year. We have seniors that attend and juniors that attend CCRI. We have to pay tuition to CCRI. for them to attend there. It's part of our accountability. It helps our schools. It's good for our students. The one thing that surprises me that when students graduate, they can attend the Community College of Rhode Island for free, yet when we have high school students attending the community college, we're required to pay tuition. And those costs have gone up because we have more students that are participating in programming at the Community College of Rhode Island. This is a good thing. We're providing opportunities for students. Moving forward here, we also pay for the SAT course for the students to be tested at both high schools, and there's a budgeted amount for floor refinishing at the secondary level as part of physical education, the gymnasiums, and it's necessary to have the floors updated from time to time. It's a safety issue, and we have a rotating schedule on that as well. We have an upgrade to the Mac lab here at Tollgate High School. The computer systems are 7 years old. It's time to update them. They're outdated, and we need to support our students and make sure that they're learning on modern technology. Instructional supplies were decreased in the secondary budget last year by 70%. We needed to restore these accounts. AP classes, art classes, tech ed classes need instructional supplies. They're necessary for the programming. New initiatives, we're going to continue the replacement of the Promethean boards, and also we're going to continue with the NEASC accreditation at the middle level. I will say that Windman was the first school to initiate the process this year. Very positive. The Windman staff and administration did an excellent job. They were very impressed, and it's been a great process for the school, for the staff. At the end of the day, it's going to help support what Mr. Haywood and Ms. Feeney are trying to accomplish at the school. Additional requests for staffing, other than the specialized classes that were previously mentioned by the special services, it should be a .6 English teacher at Tollgate High School. At this time, I would ask Carla McGovern to come forward to present the Transportation Department budget.
Hi, everybody. Okay. Okay, this is my first actual presenting of a budget, so I apologize. I didn't realize we could change the names on screens and things. I'll do better next time. Okay, so the total amount that we're requesting for fiscal year '24 is $12,141,925. It's a decrease of $946,036 from the '23 budget. The fleet large buses, it is a negative $844,204. The small bus is an increase of $301,947. Ride is a decrease of $554,073. And we did not change the gas that we had for '23 or for the diesel as well. It's not really a new initiative. That's my whole point. I should have changed the name. All right, so I went back to requesting the 57 that we had that we were supposed to receive this year, the same as last. Number one reason being we don't have enough drivers for the 57 that we initially asked for. I increased the small buses from 34 to 36, knowing that there is a higher demand. And thank you for listening. I wanted 38, but we cut it back to 36. And they are 29 passenger buses, so it isn't like we couldn't use it for other kids besides special services. I maintained the same budget price for gas and diesel at $3.97 a gallon. I'm not really sure that's going to work for diesel, but we're going to try. And And there was a recommended increase of 23% from RIDE, which we didn't do. We actually kept it a little lower. Human resources, thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My budget,
Mr. Jerry?
Yes.
Just, can I take 2 minutes? Can we just take a 2-minute
Absolutely.
restroom break?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Just a 2-minute recess.
My presentation's only about 2 minutes.
False start.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Ms. Ruggieri, if you would begin the human resources.
All right, good evening, everyone. Mine is going to be very quick. I have a very small budget. As you can see, my last year's budget was $134,415. This year I am requesting $124,895, so it's a reduction of 7.3% or $9,500. And that comes with, the major difference is electronic time card system has been in the budget. Working with other departments, we think there's cheaper ways to do that, so we took that out of the budget. But what ate up some of the savings there were the annual increases that I have for the programs that we use to run the district. ASAP, as you must know, may know, is the system for absences. So we use that for our teacher absence tracking and our substitutes. Power School Talent Ed, that's what we use to recruit nationwide. And Pitney Bowes is for postage. We have many contractual obligations for what needs to be mailed. Also, we have allocations included for ADA accommodations. Those are separate UCOA codes. It's about $6,500 of my budget, but I have to put that aside for any potential accommodations needed for staff, whether it's air conditioning, air purifiers, ergonomic workstations. We just never know from year to year what we're going to get, so that's kind of a standard that we put in there every year. A new initiative, working with Alio, which you've heard from my colleagues. We're going to try and transition our department into digital files and get into 2023. We met with the company and she told a story about some school departments down south who during the floods lost all of their personnel files. So I'm trying to be proactive so that we don't ever run into anything like that. And we have very stringent retention laws. We have to save things for 60 years, anything that's pension related. So teacher files we have to save for 60 years. So we have a need there. We would be out of compliance if we were to lose those files. Needed but not included. In 2019 to 20, we ran a pilot program at Scott Elementary School for building aid, lunch aid program. So it was 4 hours a day. We were able to retain some, it was more attractive for people to have that time per day. And at the time, the principal, Bolano, said that it was so much better to have that consistent supervision in the play yard for the students. And historically, this is an unstructured time. It's when a lot of problems happen, and for the safety of students, it's about a $400,000 ask to make that program go system-wide. So it's not in there, but I would love it if we could get it in there. Another huge wish list is a substitute pool that is step-in benefits. I know Providence does that, and they're able to retain a lot. We do have people we commit to, but it's not step-in benefits. I think we could probably get more certified teachers to our district if we could do that. We also are doing the building subs the last few years. It started during COVID. We're going to continue it. We're actually going to add another one to each school. The principals have spoken to my office and said that they really have liked that, and it's helped a lot. So we want to continue that program as well. There are no staffing changes in my office, but I just want to clarify, when people see human resources saying no staffing, that does not mean throughout the district. That just means in my office. You've heard through everyone else's presentations of staffing increases, so I just wanted to clarify so people don't think that there's nothing coming. Thank you very much. Mr. Oliver.
Good evening, everybody. Last year's fiscal year 23 budget was $4,479,950. Fiscal year 24 budget request is $5,877,545, an increase of $1.397595. Major differences, major increases in utilities, industry cost increases in supplies and materials, a dire need of equipment replacement, and some staffing. There are no new initiatives in the maintenance department. I am requesting an add of one 52-week, 35-hour custodian for Gorton and one 52-week, 20-hour custodian for the green and maintenance building. Staffing and items not included in my budget this year are weekend custodians. They play a major role in the secondary schools for outside athletic events and activities that are held there on the weekends. I would also like to have 3 floating custodians for nights and 2 for the day. We have a major issue right now with staffing of substitute employees. Just to go back to Ms. Ruggieri's asking for more permanent substitute employees. That's what we are looking for, and an additional helper custodian for the maintenance department, and a 20-hour position for Cedar Hill because of the size of the building. It's a rather big building. It needs additional help there. And 3 aerial lifts with straddles for the secondary schools, for the auditoriums to do lighting and electrical work, and additional moving funds added back into my budget. Business Department, Mr. McGrath. Thank you.
Good evening again. I'm going to finish this out. The Business Department is requesting a total of $5,776,000. The major difference of that chunk, my department pays out the out-of-district and charter school tuitions. That's what makes up the largest chunk of that. So I just want to show you this chart of the trends we're seeing for the out-of-district and charter schools. As you can see, the 22-23 charter schools have jumped, but the CTC program is doing a good job of keeping and retaining students in the district. So that's why what makes up the largest chunk of the business department. And then new initiatives is we'll be transitioning Alio to Link ERP. It's the same system, just cloud-based, and a new owner. Alio was purchased by a company called Link. So we'll be transitioning this year. Needed but not included. Department tech upgrade. Many of the computers are reaching their end of life and are going to be failing, and that's not something we want to have with files on computers. So we'll need to replace those. And there's no staffing changes. At this time, this concludes the presentation. Mr. Testa, I don't know if...
Thank you, Mr. McGrath. I want to thank everybody for the presentations. Again, tonight was just for presentations. School committee members will take this information and develop questions or concerns. They can reach out to school department administrators between now and Monday. Monday night would be the meeting where all of this is going to be carved up, and a final number that we go to the city with will be determined. So there being no other business before this committee, I would look for a motion to adjourn.
Move adjournment.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, before I do that, let me read the future meetings. I'm sorry. Thank you. Future meetings, Monday, May 1st is a special school committee meeting for the budget. That is here at Tollgate at 6 p.m. And then the regular monthly school committee meeting will be Tuesday, May 9th, 2023. That will be at Warwick Veterans. So, motion, at this point, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move adjournment.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? We're adjourned.